Hello and welcome to this new episode of Far From Home, a talk with a friend abroad. I'm really glad and honored and happy to have Vittorio today with us. And like before starting the talk, we actually said like it's years that actually we don't see each other in person, and we met. Yeah, I think like 7 or 6 years ago in Torino. He was a student at that time, and now he has like a brilliant
Yeah.
career
Hello, everybody.
abroad. So welcome to our talk.
Hey, it's almost weird to meet you, and I'm not in the classroom listening to you. So,
Yeah, that was our when we first met. So I'm glad that now we are here like talking about your experience. And I will start with the first question. That is actually, now you're living in UK,
yes.
and how you ended up in UK. If you want to share a little bit of your story, what happened in these last years.
So I think it helps to know what I'm doing right now in the UK, which is I work as a data analyst at The Economist and working on mobile apps, user insights, but that's besides the point. And I've been living here in the UK for the past 5 years. And the way started my path to get to where I am now is probably when I started studying history, which is probably the weirdest degree you'd pick to end up working as a data analyst a few years later. The way that happened was by using dissertations as a way to move towards the next degree and the next thing. So working a lot on a dissertation topic, and then making sure that I use that to move on to the next degree. And so what I did in history was my dissertation I did in my bachelor degree in history was about the prohibition of riba, the prohibition of interest in Islamic finance. And that helped me to go from being a student in history to being a Islamic law student here in London, which is why I came in the first place.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but it's so interesting. I remember you were actually, because I did that lecture at was a faculty of management or economic, and you were not actually one of the students of the faculty because you're actually studying like history. And then we developed something on Islamic finance, so we had we met each other in some like conferences, and I think what you mentioned is extremely interesting because I also do some mentoring, and I always tell students to use their dissertation as an opportunity also to build their future path, because sometimes you only think it's a waste of time, or you have to finish like fast, so you do whatever. But no, actually can be a big opportunity, and you're showing this, that through that you can define also like your future also career path.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, when I was in London here at SOAS, the way in which I used dissertation was by writing. Well, first, I got to the point in which I was writing my dissertation, and in August 2017, and I had a stroke as a 26 years old, and basically just some blood exploding in my brain, and that of course put a big stop to my studies, which were almost at the end. And so I found myself in a position which I was in London. I didn't have a job. I was about to finish my degree, but I wasn't actually done. And of course, right after the stroke, I couldn't write anything. And the stroke made me think what I really wanted to do in my life as a professional. And since I had read The Economist for most of my adult life, that sounded like a great objective. And I sat down trying to write in the very few weeks after having the stroke. I tried to sit down and write my letter to The Economist. I couldn't. I could not, because my head was so cloudy. I had so many headaches, and it was impossible for me to put together two thoughts. And I thought I couldn't get a degree and I couldn't get a job, and or at least a job in which there was brain involved, a lot of brain involved at least. And so at that point I said, maybe this is not what I can do. Maybe I should just be cooking, because at the time I was cooking a lot. So I said, well, maybe I just have to get a job in a restaurant. That's going to be me. And then I started working in a restaurant for a very short time, almost a couple of months. And what happened at the restaurant was very weird, because in a restaurant you use your memory in very different ways. You have to learn your recipes, and you have to be able to remember the orders. At the same time, it's very physical, because you have to lift stuff, you have to go around and be very careful with your hands. And that worked as a brilliant rehabilitation program for me. And what happened right after I just left the job on saying, okay, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna do something that where I can use my brain a bit more. And I got the job, and I finished my dissertation. I wrote it about Islamic finance and artificial intelligence. And I used that dissertation to get to make an argument with a company that a friend was working in that was focused on AI. And so I came there and said, look, I wrote this dissertation about AI, so I already heard about this. And so I was trying to make the point. It worked. And so I spent some time there working as an analyst and mostly learning stuff about how product cycles work. And then the opportunity came actually for The Economist a few months ago now, well, almost a year ago. And I just took it. I went for it. I said, okay, now I'm ready to apply. And I went to it. I applied to one job, and that was it. Like I broke every rule in the book about applications. They always tell you that when you apply to jobs, you should, you apply to the one you like, but then also be reasonable and apply to a bunch of others that make sense. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. I just applied to that one job. I told my boss before even knowing what was gonna happen. And so I really took a leap of faith in that moment, and luckily it paid off. And
I think your story is amazing, and I'm honored really to speaking with you and hear your story, because I was following it like through the social media, and I think you show so much like strength, so much resilience. You was so like really you kept going in different field, and always like being also self-aware of what was going on. That I think it's really I'm so happy for you now and your job and your career. So well,
and it's not being like I don't want to make it like it was me, because it wasn't for most of it. Like I mean, girlfriend who's sleeping upstairs, I shouldn't be talking too loudly, has been a big part of it. And first of all, she's a nurse, and she recognized the stroke the moment it happened. So I was lucky, and I think it's if I can explain one word that can save some people's lives, I will. And that word is FAST. And it's an acronym that you can use to remember the 4 things you can look and do when someone has a stroke. And F stands for face, because the face is gonna drool. Mm-hmm. That was a terrible impression of myself having a stroke. Then the A stands for arm, because probably the arm is not gonna move. So the usual question is lift your arms, and the guy goes like, yes, I'm lifting both my arms. And as our speech, because the speech is gonna be a bit confusing to hear, and there are these stories of stroke survivors who tried to speak on the phone, and all that came out was the mumbling, blah, 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 blah. And in the end, T is for time, which is time to call the ambulance.
Yeah. Wow. I think that, thank you for sharing. I think it's
That's really something that, I mean, you have a chance that in your life you'll have someone that has a stroke, and if you remember those 4 things, you have a chance of saving their lives.
yeah, I think it's, thank you. It's great. Wow. So moving to COVID, and so also being
Oh
here,
wow, yes.
how was your experience during like COVID in UK and Italy, and with your wife also being, your girlfriend being a nurse? Maybe also that was also.
Spoilers, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was well. I started I started working from home very early, almost 1 week, at least 1 week or 10 days before the official lockdown. So I had some time to adapt. However, the very first difficulties I had to do with routine, because I'm used to wake up at 6 a.m. And so, of course, if you don't have to do the commute, who makes you do that? But waking up so early actually helps me to be active during the day. So it took me about a month to get that back. And probably snacking and the lack of activity. So I think I realized very quickly that it wasn't the COVID to kill me. It was gonna be my heart at some point because of all the snacks I was eating during the day. So it was very dangerous. So I just started. I just started drinking a lot and running using the hour that the government has given.
Mm-hmm.
So and I hate run. I really hate running. I never liked it. I still don't like it. But I mean, it keeps you.
Yeah, it's useful.
So it's a good. It's useful at least. And I think the last difficulty that I faced was the surprising tiredness that comes from making calls online. So the fact that after a day in which you are in the office and you meet the people face to face, you're not as tired as the same day spent meeting those people on Zoom or Hangout or whatever other tool you have. And I think I still haven't figured that out yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was something that was like that was shared also by others in our talks. This like Zoom fatigue, because
Yeah,
about that we were working from home, we were actually working more because you set one call after the other without even like a break or that like coffee that you can take together and have a chit chat and then start the meeting. But you are like one meeting after the other, always concentrate, always looking at the face and only at the face. So there's also no distraction, or you cannot like looking around because you have to like focus and pay attention to what the other person is saying.
On the other hand, well, you got basically a pay rise, at least in London, because the tube costs a lot. So it's already a pay rise in itself, and you have 2 more hours. In my case, you have 2 more hours per day to spend doing stuff.
Yeah.
And it took me a month to figure out what to do with that stuff, really, with all the time. And but I think now I got back to not to lie around and do nothing, but to have a bit more routine around those, to make use of that additional time I have for now until this COVID lasts.
Because are you still working from home? Is the
I'm still working from home, yeah.
Planning to like keep working remotely, or you would probably get back in person?
Well, if you have a job that in which you just need to have a laptop and connect to the cloud, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So you're definitely saving the company. I mean, and should make it clear that these are my views and not the company views. But I mean, why wouldn't you save the money of the office and the desk and the setup you have to make if you can send the laptop somewhere and help that person to get connected to the various services. I mean, that's very efficient in terms of costs. It has been shown that it lowers the stress. So I think that for anyone who's doing a analyst job, it's going to be very difficult to find a good reason to come back.
Yes, exactly. Even if one of the big issue, and this was like culturally evident in some countries, was the trust also, because like to work from home,
Yeah.
to trust your employees or really set this as a policy of the company and trust them. While there is this idea, if you work from home, I cannot control you, so you will not work. Well, actually, like many of us are self-employed or even like working on like more digital work, it's like we are also actually working more or working the same.
Well, I think the answer to that is results-based tasks. Because I mean, if you have to provide the result, it doesn't. I don't care if you spend 1 hour or 2 hours on that. You can spend an hour and then watch Netflix, for example, which I don't do ever. But
They have the result, yes.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if you have a result and you achieve that, and you maybe even go beyond that, and you do it in less time, that's I mean, it's definitely a strong point to take also when thinking about the 9 to 5 hours time. I mean, some people just work better in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or vice versa, they are night owls. So
exactly. And how was like culturally from you to move from Italy to UK, and any like cultural shock, or you expected everything? And is the economies like British in his culture? Is a British company or is a mix, a more, I don't know, international?
okay, so you asked a dangerous question there.
Okay, you also you're
so, but also well, two, because what was a cultural shock, and that's never gonna be good. What I answer. However, well, first, there is a history of at least 2,000 years of people moving from the Italian peninsula to this island. So that's good to know when you like you're not the only one. It happened for thousands of years, and so I think definitely the language at first, although I came as a student, I had to have a certain level of English to be admitted to the university. Coming here and doing the most basic things like getting a phone and getting your SIM card, hearing all these different accents that you get here in London, it was quite a shock. Like in a way, thinking, okay, I cannot speak English. But I still can't, obviously, but I still make many mistakes. But apart from that, I think that was the major challenge at first, by far.
Yeah.
And then the renting system, probably, because for those who know, London has a always increasing prices on rents, and so it's very weird coming from a country where you can get a room for 300 euros, 400 euros, and see the same room at 1,000 pounds here.
Yes, I think it's interesting the point you mentioned about language, because yes, you are in UK, but you're actually in London. That is a word in itself. And I remember when I was in Torino and I was looking with the second generation Muslims, and one of them, he told me, I'm gonna live in London, and I was like, okay, so do you speak English? And he was like, no, you don't need it. You can speak Urdu in the part of underwear where I'm gonna go.
Well, in certain neighborhoods, I certainly believe that's possible. I mean, I lived in Shadwell for a year almost, and it's very much of a Bangladesh. There is very strong Bangladeshi community, and when I was there, learning those 3 to 5 words in Bangla was very useful to get the dry cleaning done on time. So
Yeah. Yes.
very helpful.
Good. I think that now he is speaking like English and is working also, not only in that specific, let's say, neighborhood in London. And so what during COVID or after, even now, if maybe you have like thought about even like before this, so what have been the resources that you have found during the lockdown or this like time?
So I definitely spend more time reading. That's something. And since, at least since April, I started throwing myself at a new language. It is Chinese now. So I've been studying Chinese with my amazing Lao Shi, my teacher, Chen Liu, and she makes sure I remember that I don't really speak Chinese on a weekly basis. And but now I got to the point where I can say I don't speak Chinese in Chinese.
Whoa,
is
that's a big
useful. That's in my experience in the various countries I visited, knowing that you cannot speak that language, it's very helpful.
I think it is. It's also a great point.
And in fact, if I can follow up on that, if you know at least 3 words in what was that? Maybe 4. 4 words in any language, you are gonna survive most of the conversations, and people are gonna think that you know that language, even if you don't. And those words are just good morning. So let's say in French, of course, bonjour, and thank you, merci, and sorry, excusez-moi, and because you gotta be polite, so you have to say thank you and sorry. But also, I agree, je suis d'accord. Because if you don't agree, then that's another skill level, because they're gonna ask you why you don't agree. So if you agree, they're just, oh, that's okay, he knows, and they're gonna go on. And then in French, to me, there is another word that is every possible question they ask you. So what time is it? What are you doing tonight? So.
Yes, right. Yes, I think that is a great tip. And I also think like working in culture and language, sometimes also if you just say a few words, also the person you're speaking with, like your maybe future business partner, they just are they have a different attitude because you're making an effort to like connect with them.
It's a great way to connect with people. Well, I mean, it's not because you want to speak in that language perfectly, because that's almost never the goal. It might be to, well, I think in my case, I think in any case actually, a good objective to have, linguistic objective to have, is to get to a point in which in that language you can take advantage of the cultural products. Mm-hmm. And so if you, I'm really waiting for the next season of La Casa de Papel. Every time there is a season, I get my Spanish boost. Like my Spanish becomes a little bit better every time there is a season. So that's really, really looking forward to it.
Yes, I think it's a great way of training a language. Like,
yeah. But also, it's never the fact that you need to speak a language perfectly in order to create a connection with people that speak the language. I mean, think about Arabic. And I know that working with Moroccan, with Italian Moroccans in Turin, of course, just those couple of words of Darija probably made your life better.
Yes, so true. And it's the same now for me in Maltese. We mentioned before, it's a Semitic language, and I made an effort to study, but I will probably not be like proficient, but I think it's needed also, and I like, and I want to like also enjoy more, let's say, the cultural product, as you said, of the island. Good. So we're almost at the end of our talk now.
Okay.
the message to your.
I have prepared it.
You're
So
prepared. Okay.
really, I was really. So the question I received, just to make clear, was to use the language of the heart. Which I wasn't sure what it was. Such to the country of your heart, which are all concepts that since I'm becoming slowly British. In fact, today I took my cultural test. And since I'm becoming British, these hard things are really hard, becoming really hard to understand. However, I would make the message in English.
Okay.
Because I'm really in love with this country, and I'm probably gonna stay for a long time. So, and since we are in a bit of a difficult moment economically, and I think as the spirit of the nation is having difficulties at the moment, I think the message is for this island, and well, actually the UK. And the message is comes from comes from a book that is called Factfulness. And things can be bad and better at the same time. Mm-hmm. And no matter how bad things look now, they are becoming increasingly better, and they are going to be better. So trust that, and don't be desperate about what's coming today, because tomorrow is going to be a better day.
Thank you. That's nice. Actually, the question, like the language of your heart and in the country of your heart, it's tricky, but that's the point. Like our talks are far from home. But what's in the reflection that many expats are making now is where's home? So it's a place where the person, my loved one, lives, or if like this country where I'm living and I really feel at home. And so this is why I always tell like my guests, you can also choose like 3 countries and three languages, because you can feel at home in 3 countries and 3 languages.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that it was perfect. And actually I like that you asked, because yeah, I didn't want you to deliver anything in Italian or in any language that I thought was your language of art or your country of art, but I want like you and all our guests like to choose and pick and share. So
very much.
Thank you again, Vittorio, and again, like congratulations with all your like career, and well done. Keep going, and I'm really again glad and honored to have you. And thank you everyone for following our talk.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Yes, everybody.